Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of Voices of Healthcare Cloud. We're so excited that you have joined us today. As always, I have my partners in crime, Josh and Vasu, helping me here in the background with our Q&A. So please check it out and make sure you engage with our conversation. So before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. We definitely want to know who you are, where you're coming from. So please engage with us, and we want to answer your questions, especially when we have really great presenters here for you. The Q&A is moderated, so if you need it to be personal or you want us to respond to you, just say that. Afterwards, we will post the recording to the blog, the same place you found the invite for this, and to encourage you to share that with others if you feel so inclined. So how to engage. In the top right-hand corner, you'll see a little question mark or a little chat bubble. Click that and it will open up the Q&A panel. And so hopefully you can try this out now. Once the Q&A panel is open, definitely post in there where you're joining us from, what city, what country, what customer, or even post your name so we can say hi personally. So with that, we will take you on to the presentation. So today we have one of my good friends and colleagues, Matt Anderson, here to talk about patient referral automation. With that, I'd love to introduce you to Matt.
All right, thanks very much, Shelley. And thanks, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to be one of the voices of the healthcare cloud today. As Shelley mentioned, my name is Matt Anderson. I'm a healthcare solution architect at Microsoft, been with the organization for coming up on 4 years, and excited to be able to chat about something that I've discussed one-on-one with a variety of different customers, but be able to get the word out in a little bit wider of a format with this today. Just want to confirm, Shelley, if you could let me know behind the scenes that you are seeing my slide share and screen share, just via the chat will be fine. So the focus here is going to be on patient referral automation, and specifically part of patient referral automation that we see for both provider as well as payer customers, a challenge or a process that involves several different challenges at different points of the process. Now I'll go ahead and elaborate that on that a bit here. So we start to look at traditional referral form processing. There's a lot that can go on in this very common process. Referrals are not unique. They're not an exception. They happen all the time. And the processing of those, especially at scale, is fraught with challenges much along the way. So following the map from left to right here, we have different ways that those referrals may be coming in from a provider or from a patient themselves, whether it's through a fax, a website, an email, any of those go into different inboxes. Those are then checked periodically by either individuals or teams of people, or put into a system, and then ultimately go out to someone who might manually schedule the appointment for them, or it might go through some additional adjudication process or follow-up, even automation from there. And this is fraught with delays, with these individual silos of information, not really being able to get the economies of scale when you're trying to process these referrals that are coming in. That review and data entry process is also prone to human error. And that's something that we see and can encumber the speed and effectiveness of a referral process. And then, after things are processed to a digital format, say put into an EMR as a referral that then needs to be scheduled, there's additional waiting after everything to the left of this has actually happened. So, slowness and challenge kind of, abound throughout the overall process that we have here. And this is where, from a Microsoft perspective, we start to look at capabilities we have that extend from our industry cloud or the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare, in which we can take the core components of the Microsoft Cloud and use those tuned in a manner that's specific to healthcare customers to be able to enhance and improve upon this process. So in this session, what I'll do is I'll go through a little bit about what that solution looks like, what the overall process looks like through the format of a demo, some of the different ways it can tie into either existing systems or other automations that you might have. And I'll encourage you either along the way, or we'll cover it some at the end as well. If you have any questions that come up, please do utilize the Q&A feature that Shelley talked about at the outset. So we talked some about the problem. Let's, turn our eye toward what a solution looks like when it comes to referral form processing and automation. And when we start looking at the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare platform, there are a few places where that jumps out. One is that we have the ability to take a variety of different channels that we engage with, an omni-channel approach of being able to take from fax, from email, from form submissions, and to be able to standardize the process of how that data is collected. From there, we can take a detail extraction model from those forms, being able to go from the raw information that's been sent in and get that into a digital format that we can then use with workflow and following industry standard practices as far as the data formats that's going to be in, and put that into a prioritized order, even route that in front of the appropriate people, giving them some awareness. Hey, there's a new referral, and here's the, of the 25 referrals that have come in, here's what the priority is as far as which one you should follow up on next, and which is going to be most important. We also, as part of this solution, have the ability to do scoring of the extraction itself. So you may have something that's a handwritten form, and the model isn't quite sure about it. Any of those exceptions can be routed to a human to be able to say, hey, we want to validate the accuracy of this particular form review that we've done, and that routing and automation that's part of that is a core component of the Microsoft Cloud. And as I'll get into a little bit more detail later on, this is not a point solution. This is just one use case of many that you can enable by using the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare. So I feel like a demonstration here is going to be worth many thousands of words. So I'll go ahead and jump into the demonstration side of things, unless I guess I will pause and see Shelley or team if there are any questions for me at this point before I do jump into a demo.
Not yet, Matt. I think you're good to go.
All right, sounds good. So here's what we'll see in the first portion of this. We're going to see the referral coming in via a fax channel, the extraction of those details coming out, going into a digital repository, and the queue that they land in for somebody to go through. After we go through this, we'll see a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of how this actually happens. So with that said, I'll start by giving you a view of the form that is actually being faxed in here. This is a referral request form from a provider organization, pretty standard form and format for what we have here. I'm going to bring up my fax simulation tool where I already have that Voices of Healthcare fax that's going to be going in there. And just go ahead and kick that off because we are doing a live demo as part of this, just so you can kind of see the magic of what's happening here. And what I love about a demonstration like this is The magic is actually happening in the background. At this point, there's not a lot that a human physically has to do to be able to understand or see what's going on behind the scenes. Remember, in the slide that we saw previously, I'll go back to it a bit here. This is where it would be going in from the fax to an inbox, maybe a physical tray. It might be a digital inbox. We'd have people going and checking that before they go and then enter it into a system and route off to other people. But if I jump back over here and I go to my my app where I can see any of the extracted referrals, I'm just going to go ahead and give this a little refresh. And we can see I'm Central Time here, so at 1:12 p.m. I had a referral that was processed through. And as I pop that open, I can see all of the details that had been part of that original form that I had flashed up before that have been extracted out and put into a digital format. Now, additionally, we do include the original source file and image, and we can see how this routes to other systems downstream. And, because a demo like this, like the magic really happens behind the scenes, I'm going to give you a peek behind the scenes at what actually, kind of happened to be able to go from this to this. So here, I'm going to pull up a more visual way of being able to see a physical form next to the extracted information that's being pulled out of it. And if I go ahead and I'll choose that same referral Voices of Healthcare document that's over here, the model grabs it and it takes just a few moments while it parses out the information based on the trained model. And you can start to see all of the information, first name, last name, email, and all of the identified fields that are part of that referral that's come in are represented on the right-hand side here. Now, this is, as I had alluded to before, if there were, say, a manual review, there was something that had a low confidence factor by the model as it was processing it, this could be something used by a human to be able to validate and confirm the information that was extracted out. If I zoom in a bit here, we can actually see that the confidence level on each of these is 95, 99, 100 to 100% here. It's great when you have a typed form, which, if it's coming in from a digital PDF that somebody filled out, you may have that. But for things that are, say, handwritten, it may not have that high of a confidence factor that lives out there. But this is kind of that quick ability to go from, the PDF or image-based form that we had to the discrete fields that live out here. Now, how do we get to this? And this is an important point of the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare, is that it's not just that we can have a model that that can take a referral and pull the text out, but it's how quickly you can go from your specific referral request form or forms that you have to be able to connect that into a digital process. And we actually use our low code capabilities of the platform, something called AI Builder, which brings the power of cognitive services and machine learning from Microsoft and puts it in a business-friendly wrapper to be able to get started and build your own form processing model for your referrals. So it's a very straightforward three-step process that you go through for this, where you upload 5 or more examples of the document that you're going to be putting in there. You'll tag them. I'll show you what the tagging process looks like in just a moment here. And then you publish that model that's going to get used out in the in your automation or from that channel. So if we take a look at an example form here, you can see the similarity to what I had previously. Though formats can be varied. This certainly use whatever document or free text format that you want to be able to train to your specific model. And we just simply use drag and drop to be able to look at the field types that are there, identify the appropriate things that are the relevant data that live within your referral form. And then you store and save that as an AI model, and you actually get to save that model. So that's step one. Step one is you can build and train that model. Step two, now this is where the magic happens. This is where you can take that information that comes in. So start with whatever trigger that you want to, the facts coming in, perhaps for argument's sake, that might be an email. It might be any one of hundreds of connectors here. I'll use Office 365 Outlook as one of the triggers. So maybe something is being uploaded to a specific a portal site or a SharePoint site, or coming in via email or coming in via fax as an attachment. We have the ability to trigger, use that inbound information to then work with our existing referral AI model that we trained using AI Builder. So there we kind of go from the inbound message to grab the form type, either a PDF document or an image that's going to be coming from that. And then we process that through, and we can drop it into existing applications, or we can put it directly into the Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resource Format, or FHIR format, which is an industry standard for being able to interoperate between systems for using things like clinical information. So we can use the referral request as an example here to be able to make that available to other applications within the Microsoft ecosystem. And it's really kind of that simple. I mean, I don't want to go super technical on the exactly what and how, all of this works, but giving you an idea that it's not just that it can be done, but it's truly that easy to be able to work with the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare to be able to get data into a, healthcare system ready format with very minimal inputs on your part. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to this overview page that I had and see if there are any questions that had come up in chat. I don't know, Josh or Shelly or team, if there's anything that's out there at this point.
Yeah, Matt, we have one question coming in from the crowd, asking a little bit about how would this process really impact a workflow when a lot of this resides in the EMR. They say their scheduling and follow-up for this referral would happen in the EMR. So are there any types of like pre-built data connections between the EMR and this solution? And how could that take out some of the manual legwork?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic question. And the answer is yes, absolutely. This is not doing your scheduling for you. You're going to have a practice management system or an EMR where that scheduling will physically take place. There's a couple of different points at which this comes up, and I'm going to flash over to a high level architecture of the kind of larger solution that we have here that shows this in the context of a little bit more of a healthcare environment. So what we've been seeing is some of these components of form processing and automation coming in through a variety of different channels here. But part of this overall structure includes a connection point to EMR systems or practice management systems as you start looking at doing scheduling. So kind of how and where this fits in is everything that we saw physically in the demo kind of goes from those raw channels, those silos of inbound referrals that are coming in, and passes that into a common data model that is able to synchronize using that FHIR specification, that standard for being able to interoperate between healthcare systems, and put the actual referral, make that referral request available with an EMR or to practice management solution as you're working with that. Now, a couple of things on that. One is that you may have people who are doing, manual follow-up on that work. So you can certainly present them the information, kind of like you saw in the demo, where there was the information that was represented in a form for them to follow up on, and they can use scheduling components as part of it. And I'll actually show some extensions to the core solution in just a few minutes here, of how and where you can make that experience even better as you have a person physically involved with that. Now, the other side of it is some practice management solutions, or EMRs, have kind of automation of scheduling capabilities or suggestions based on characteristics, the type of appointment that it needs to be as part of it, and even suggesting appropriate slots that may be a good fit, or perhaps it's a location based on details that are coming in from the form. Those types of criteria that can be used for either the fully automatic scheduling through the practice management system, or at least coming up with suggestions of what the most appropriate appointment are going to be, can be presented back out to users. So a couple of different paths and opportunities to really enhance that workflow after it's gone through the digitization process. One other thing, and then I'll see if there are other questions, but one of the other places where we've seen kind of advantage in the overall workflow, how are we making those improvements to this overall process when there's still kind of the EMR that's central to that. And there are a couple of different places where we've been having some good conversations and seeing success around that. One is around high volumes of referrals that are coming in, and literally having to kind of process and prioritize based off of information on those. If we can only process through so many of these, or if there are certain types of procedures where they need to be able to respond very quickly, how do we make sure those are prioritized to the top of somebody's queue to follow up on and do that scheduling? That is one of the capabilities of the workflow, to be able to do some of that scoring and prioritization, and you can tweak those rules based on your specific organization, and what specialties are really the ones where you want to be focusing. What types of procedures or activity are going to be the things that you want to prioritize and get scheduled before somebody else would. The other side of it is in lower volume of referrals that are coming in, making sure that there aren't added delays of when those things come in. Commonly, referrals that are going into, say, a shared inbox that several people might have access to. They're monitoring those sporadically throughout the day. Those can sit out there for, minutes, hours, or sometimes get missed day to day, and there's not a good proactive alerting that's involved with those beyond the basic characteristics of email. And when there are other things going on, those are the types of things that can slip through the cracks. Behind this engine, using some of the business application capabilities that are part of the Microsoft Cloud, we can help to identify and escalate those things to make sure that they don't slip through the cracks, to make sure that they're getting their due attention. If you're not seeing that same high volume of them come through, that can help direct traffic in that way. So awesome. I'll move away from the architecture diagram, because I know not everyone likes architectures, and see if there are any other questions.
It may be beneficial for this next question, Matt, but one of the questions is, you've talked about how this can be used in a scenario like with faxes, but can we talk about some of the other potential inputs, and then even outside of the idea around referral processing, can a similar technology kind of backend be used in other scenarios, like capturing insurance information off of an insurance card or medication off of a prescription form or something like that? Can you speak to that a little bit, both the inputs and maybe some of those other scenarios?
Yep, absolutely. And I will go back to the reference architecture just as a backdrop for the conversation here. So I'll start with the latter portion of this first. The latter portion of that question first. While this particular scenario that I'm going through is only one example, there are a variety of different use cases and patterns where this same form processing capability can become really valuable. Another capability within the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare can be like a pre-visit workflow as part of either a virtual visit or an on-site visit where you want to capture insurance information, off of a card for somebody. And this same form and text processing, the cognitive services, is the same enabling technology that lets a consumer take a picture of their insurance card to be able to have that digitized, and they're not having to try to type that in physically themselves. So that's a common one, but certainly only one of many. Now, when we look at the various channels for that, I'd like to stick with the example of that insurance card because that's one where we can see that we can see one of the channels that's available there, which is a portal. And I'll talk a bit more about portals in a bit. But if you have somebody, a patient, a member, or even a provider portal, if you want to do a submission through a portal page, that can be one of those inbound channels. Fax is obviously the one that I'd given an example of there, but the chat channel is another really interesting one where you might have an automated chatbot scenario going on where you have somebody, they've asked, typed in a couple of questions, or maybe you have a symptom checker that you're using, the Azure Health Bot for, but you run into a point where that patient or member needs to provide that insurance information. So even through a bot, you can use things like the camera on your phone to be able to take a picture of that card and upload that via chat. Certainly, if you have a custom mobile app that you've developed, or you want to expose a way to upload through a mobile app, if you have one specific to your organization, that's an option as well. And then certainly I think I made a reference to this, but things like an inbound email, if there is kind of that inbox that things are going to, that can be one of the triggers as well for getting into this. So if I go back, I'll slides again here, so looking at where some of those challenges are along the way, we can look at this variety of different channels that I was just mentioning and consolidate all of the inbound, that you think of that inbox that they go to, we cut out the two steps in the middle here, and we have a consolidated inbox that they're going to that can either route out to, practice management system or be escalated to an individual. And I think I covered both of the questions in there, but keep me honest, or if there are any additional questions that had come up while I was chatting.
We've got two more questions. I think you did a great job so far, okay, Matt. So thanks for being flexible here. Yeah. One follow-up question that Tom asked is, with regards to the automated prioritization, the service level orchestration, he's wondering if these lists are able to appear in like a shared channel in Teams, and how that can, I guess really just how that information can get surfaced within some end user facing application.
Yeah, absolutely. So to the Teams question specifically, absolutely. While I had shown, kind of this visual example of it within Teams here, this same type of application or prioritized queue is something that can be displayed within Teams as well. So think of this list, and if there was a priority score that was given here, sorted based on priority and exposing that through teams. We also have the ability to put different queues that are part of that. So here, for demo purposes, I only have a single, extracted referrals bucket that things drop into. But if you have, kind of prioritized queue buckets that things may, fall into, or you kind of break things up based on, physical geography or specialty or those sorts of things, all of that can be exposed directly through Microsoft Teams to be able to show that. Now, additionally, there's an out-of-the-box capability within the platform to show, on a mobile device, these apps can be responsive as well if you're creating a user experience as part of your process here. So if it's only just, if the only purpose is to get things to an EMR, that doesn't need necessarily its own physical experience to be put in front of it. But if there is more workflow, say there, is a series of questions, part of an additional assessment that needs to take place before you have the details you need to do an appropriate scheduling, you can include those assessments or those details as part of an agent experience or a user experience as they follow up with the patient who's being referred in. I do actually have, I'll go a little bit out of order here, in how this aligns with some of our other applications, within the Microsoft Industry Cloud, or what we call the cloud for healthcare, is that we have these connectors and APIs that I'm showing in the middle here that work with and between different capabilities of the Microsoft Cloud. So as part of that, it includes things like care team collaboration, or helping drive more personalized care. And one of the things that we may see in an application for somebody who's following up on this is a screen where they can see, like, they have their own personal queue of items or a series of things they're following up on. And as say in a high volume processing example, they may have that new work that's pushed out to them to follow up on in a very rapid period of time, giving them kind of a proactive alert as part of it. So this happens to be using Dynamics 365, which is some of the business application capability within the Microsoft Cloud. So we can see this information there and drive priority there. We can do it within Teams. We can do it in custom applications. If you're a more traditional developer wanting to work with this as well, it's kind of an opportunity to be able to bring your expertise. Don't throw away what you've been doing, but enhance that with some of the capabilities of the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare to really help fill in those gaps that can traditionally lead to delays and challenges and inefficiencies within a follow-up process like this.
Awesome.
So hey, Matt, there is a question in the chat that is kind of related to what you just said. The question is asking around, does this referral management system also handle the creation of a patient contact in Dataverse? Hoping it does, because wanting to know if you can view multiple referrals for the same patient over time or in different context as you're viewing that patient in maybe another.
Yeah, absolutely. So the short answer to that question is yes. So thank you for that question. For those who may not be familiar with some of the details that came from behind that question. Dataverse is, when I was talking about building low-code applications, Dataverse is one of the ways that we can build and store information, in the cloud securely, without having to, be a traditional developer and create those experiences. Part of what we have within the common data model, and specifically our healthcare extensions to the common data model, is that idea of they call it a contact in Dataverse, but in the the healthcare world, we would think of a member or a patient, or a contact could be a practitioner, caregiver, all of these different people, if you will, can be represented as that contact inside of Dataverse. So as we look at the different parties that are involved in sending in a referral, let's think of some of the people. There's the patient themselves, there's a referring physician, there's a referring, whom they're being referred to, there's the person who filled out the form, who may very well be someone different from the physician themselves, who are all different and interested parties that are part of that referral process. Within Dataverse, we can tie that referral that's come in to each of those different parties. So if we think a little bit more broadly beyond just an individual referral that's come in, yes, we can see the other. I meant to go to a different screen there. We can see the different referrals that have come in for a specific patient, but we can also start to see some of the things that have come up from other physicians who are referring in. Where are those referrals coming from? What's your leakage and keepage as an organization? Is there something that you want to be doing from a physician relationship management perspective? And those are core things that you can do using Dataverse behind the scenes to be able to power those types of solutions and that type of engagement. So when you think about, I've tried to allude a couple of times in this presentation to the referral just being one part of an overall larger, industry solution that is part of the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare. But these are some of those touch points. So the ability to say, here are those different actors who are involved, those parties that are involved in a referral, is a good way to be able to think about how we can view, where are those coming from, and whenever Shelley submits the referral in, she always forgets to fill out these five fields. And we maybe want to follow up with her and give her a little bit of coaching so we don't have to manually review those. She might not even realize that she's doing it the wrong way, but you can identify those trends because she's the person filling out the form each time, and being able to track and engage with those various parties is one of those things that's part of the larger solution within Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare. One other point, because it had come up a little bit before, and I think this is a good place for it, is that we do have tie-ins to EMR scheduling solutions that are part of this. So if you want to build out a front end to be able to work with doing the scheduling, searching for a slot, perhaps you're looking across multiple EMRs, just for like the next available, but within your health system, there are several different EMRs that don't have the best communication with each other, and you want to have a single pane of glass to be able to search across those slots and get something scheduled. We have scheduling solutions that can help address that type of issue, working with either partners who have kind of tailored experiences over the top of that, or if you want to get more kind of down to the raw metal yourself and work with the actual integrations to those scheduling interfaces that are available. That's available both within the partner as well as our overall Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare ecosystem with our APIs and data models. All right. I will see what other kind of questions there may be. I've jumped around an awful lot here, so I stole some of my thunder from other slides, but I really appreciate the questions.
I don't think we have any more questions at this point. So I think you're good to keep going, Matt, if you want.
Okay. So a couple of things that I'd like to focus in on here, as we kind of draw the formal presentation to a close. One thing I just want to really reinforce is that, because this is our cloud for healthcare, there are a wealth of existing Microsoft solutions that this is built to work with. I've referenced a good handful of them, but instead of talking about product names, I'd look more at, a couple of questions, like from a patient and consumer engagement perspective, when a patient is referred, do they feel like they're knowing what's going on, or do they feel more like they're in the dark? And do your patients or members know what you're doing behind the scenes for them? We have, as part of this platform, consumer engagement capabilities so that, hey, the referral came in from their provider. We know who the patient is. We work with them. Let's send them an SMS saying, hey, we referred that. We're working on scheduling this for you, or even sending them that SMS saying, how would next Tuesday work for you? And connecting those channels to be able to go from the automation to checking for potentially good fits for timing to a channel of engagement like SMS or email, or if they have stored with you a preferred channel of choice that they're looking for. Another great engagement channel there is if you do have existing portals that you can drive them back to, or an app that you can drive them back to, you can stay consistent with that, but just let them know along the way without a human being having to even enter the process at that point, other than like that patient knowing, hey, something is happening on my behalf. On the technical side of things, I'll also say some of you may have seen the kind of low code approach to building out a form processing model. And some of you may have already started a journey of, form processing and automation. The rest of the workflow process that I've talked about in the cloud for healthcare can work with your existing model. So, let's say you've already started down some of that path and you have a model that's in place and working to some degree, but you're interested in some more of the workflow automation, escalation, prioritization capabilities that come along with that ride in parallel with the core form processing piece of it. Let's have a conversation. Those are the kinds of things that are all capabilities of the cloud for healthcare, and you don't have to do everything in the cloud for healthcare to start driving benefit to some of the capabilities of the Microsoft platform and what our partners bring to the table from that perspective. So I think with that, I covered a handful of things, but I will put a couple of shameless plugs out there for other content from the Voices of Healthcare Cloud. If you haven't already, there was a session a couple of weeks ago on physician referral automation. So talking about the leakage and keepage conversation and driving physician relationship management. There was a focused session on that took place a couple of weeks ago. More information about that on the Voices of Healthcare Cloud blog. Additionally, there is a recent update in our Cloud for Healthcare. We just saw our October wave update, adding new enhancements and capabilities to the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare. There's some details out there on the blog detailing what those are, and of course many more on the Microsoft website, the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare website. And then more on the technical side, the lower right-hand corner, a couple of sessions ago, there was a session about that FHIR format for using your data and different ways to leverage components of the Microsoft Cloud in being able to work with that FHIR format data, which is really, key to interoperability scenarios moving forward within healthcare organizations. So if you're a little more on the technical side, that's a great one to be able to dig into and get a little more information on how some of that would work and how does the interoperability story start to come together as we look at these various components within the healthcare cloud. And with that, I think we get back to the final questions slide here. If there are other questions from the audience, otherwise I'll turn it back over to Shelley and or Josh.
Thanks, Matt, so much also for the shameless plugs of the webinar. We're excited that you appreciate all the content that we're sharing. So with that, we've posted a couple of links in the chat for everybody, just wrapping up with a few housekeeping items. We do have a form that we're collecting folks who want to volunteer to get these sessions sent directly to their inbox so you can get calendar hold. So click that form and put your email in there. If you've already done that once, we don't need you to do it again. So thank you those who have already done it. And then we also have next week's session posted as well. We just put the link in the chat. We have another great speaker coming to talk about data-driven patient engagement. So really engaging with your patients where they are and what they care about with regards to their demographics, their age, their social determinants of health. Really, really good content. So we hope you join us next week. Then we will be taking a break and then coming back the 1st of December. So we are super excited for all these great speakers. And then as always, we will be posting the recording from today's session back on the blog, and any kind of resources that were shared during the session today will go out there. And so with that, that will wrap today's session. Hopefully you guys have a few minutes to grab some water or food before your next meeting. And we hope to see you all here again next week. Thanks so much.